First off, it's great to see everybody here. You probably don't know me from Adam, so let me just give you a little bit of a background. I've been involved in the online travel category for as long as there's been an online travel category. I started Expedia.ca in my house in Bloor West Village in 1999. I ran global marketing for Expedia in Seattle. I was the first person to run dynamic packages for Expedia in Seattle. And since that time, and before that I was in corporate travel and ITC package travel and all kinds of stuff. But basically I've been in digital travel for as long as it's been digital travel. And so since that time, I've kind of split my days between working with early stage companies. I do a lot of work with early stage companies, both as an investor and advisor, and also with larger companies as well. So I've worked with the Marriotts and Design Hotels and Starwood before them, and Shangri-La and you name it of the world, as well as, I'm happy to say, Sherpa and other companies in the Toronto area as well. So that's a little bit about me, just to give you a bit of context. So what I want to talk about is post-COVID travel. What happened and what's next? Because we all want to be like done with COVID, right? We want to talk about like what's next. Where are we going? COVID is over. Yay, that's great. So yeah, we're going to talk about a few of those things. I've got a few buckets that I want to go through. I'm going to talk about how adversity equals opportunity. I'm going to talk about ancillaries to the rescue. I'm going to talk about accommodation dislocation. I'm going to talk about high yield is highly questionable. And I'm going to talk about India and China being the future. But before we talk about this wonderful future that awaits us, I want to take a little bit of a walk down memory lane. Because adversity equals opportunity. And I see some people that are kind of my vintage around the room, but there's lots of people who are maybe new to the travel industry, haven't been here for all that long. And I got to tell you, this COVID thing, really bad, not the first time, kids. So I've seen a bunch of things. First off, September 11th, 2001. Terrible event. I am in no way saying that this was a good thing. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. It had catastrophic impact for the travel industry. Things stopped. They just stopped, okay? Nobody was traveling, planes were on the ground, we've heard the story, come from away, blah, 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 all this stuff. It was absolutely devastating for the travel category. I lived through it. I didn't think Expedia was going to make it, just kind of sat there waiting for things to crater. It was not good. Then, in Toronto, we had SARS. Does anybody remember that little chestnut? Right? So that shut us down too. Nobody booked any hotels, nobody was coming to Toronto, it was like huge events were canceled. It took a long, long time to get back up and running. Then, in 2008, the bottom fell out of the stock market. Guess what happened? Nobody traveled, everything died, everything went quiet, nothing happened. I had a business at that time in the cruise category. We didn't sell anything for 6 months. Our business was primarily selling into New York, Texas, and California, and there was nothing. The phone did not ring. Nothing happened. So the reason that I mention this is because in each of these situations, including with COVID, eventually things recovered and eventually things got better. But in the middle of it, in each one of these situations, there have been businesses and people that have found some way to do something that they otherwise would never have been able to do. Okay? And the reason I want you guys to know this is it's gonna happen again. Something is gonna happen again. I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you the impact of it. I can't tell you how widespread it's gonna be, but it's not like, there, we're done. There's going to be something else. And so you need to be ready to take advantage and to find the opportunity in that adversity. So I'm going to give you a little walk down memory lane. Yes, that's the old school Expedia logo. I was the CMO at the time, so damn it, that's what we're using. So September 11th happened. It was awful. I was getting onto the Gardener. at South Kingsway, coming downtown. Heard on the radio, a plane had hit. It was terrible. It's like, that's weird. We're in an office by the Month place north of here on King Street. Walk in, watch the second plane hit. It's like, oh my gosh, this is real. And it's like, come on, folks, we got to get to work because we had all these passengers all over the world that were going to be grounded, and we needed to deal with helping them. And at the whole time, I was thinking, we're done, right? This is it. This will be the end of the business. I don't know that we're ever going to come back from this. But we had to service our customers. We had to be in touch with them. All sorts of things happened. Another thing that happened is in Las Vegas, the place emptied out. Completely emptied out. So Las Vegas, I don't know if people realize this, but 1 in 5 leisure trips in North America goes to Las Vegas. Okay? So anytime somebody gets on a plane for a leisure trip in North America, 1 out of 5 of them is going to Vegas. It's crazy, but that's how big it is. And so Vegas, independent hotels, massive properties, thousands of rooms, empty. So about a week after September 11th, people started to realize that they could probably get on a plane again and they weren't going to die. And I don't mean to say that facetiously or in any sort of just kind of a throwaway comment. That was literally it. People started to realize that maybe they could travel again. Also, for the first time in the history of consumer commerce, they realized that they could go onto the internet and look for deals. This had literally never happened before. So we had demand like crazy. Our search volume went through the roof because people were now ready to go and they figured there had to be travel deals. There just had to be travel deals. And so they came on and we had search volume like crazy. At the exact same time, Vegas was empty. Hotels in Vegas came to us and said, we're empty, can you help us? And we're like, yeah, we can help you. Because we knew we had all this demand, lots of people looking for deals. We said, but you know what, there's going to be one little change. Up until this time, the cost of distribution of a hotel over in a digital channel was actually through any sort of a reseller channel, travel agency or whatnot, was probably about 3%. It was officially around 5%, but like literally this was the days of like checks and they would like fall down the back of the table and like there was all sorts of stuff. So the effective cost of distribution for a hotel was about 3%. The deal that we did with the hotels in Vegas was we think that we can fill you up, but we're going to take over the street price of your hotel. We're going to do a net price with you like a tour operator does. Those of you that might know this world. So we're going to be like a land-only tour operator. This is how we sold it to them. We're going to be a land-only tour operator. We're going to control the net price. We're going to get the net price from you. We're going to set the street price. The customer's going to pay us, and then you're going to invoice us, and we're going to pay you. And it's going to cost you 25 to 35%. And they said, yes. And within 2 weeks, we were just filling up floor after floor after floor after floor after floor after floor after floor. And guess what? That's how the business happened. We went from it being a 3% cost of distribution business for where we would earn about 3% on the cost of a hotel to us controlling the street price and making about 25 to 30, 35% off the sale of a hotel. How did we do that? By recognizing the opportunity in the adversity. Now, do hotels feel the same way about it? Probably not. Not even a little bit. But the reality was, at the time, it served a need, and that need was meaningful, and we managed to change the business. And we took something that was a throwaway in the category to essentially becoming the way that online travel agencies and, frankly, most companies in the travel space make money, which is selling hotels because you're going to get a 25% margin. So, opportunity and adversity. Don't forget, it's going to happen again. Now, accommodation dislocation. During COVID, first off, nobody wanted to travel, right? You couldn't travel. Then nobody wanted to travel, didn't want to stay in hotels, didn't want to touch elevator buttons, didn't want to, all that sort of stuff. Didn't want any of that. So guess what happens? Airbnb skyrockets. People wanted their own thing. Their revenue went from, I gotta check my notes. I don't want to give you the wrong numbers. The revenue went from about $1 billion in 2017 to $9.9 billion in 2023 for Airbnb. So they went bananas. At the same time, hotels basically sat empty. And the other thing that happened was nobody's building hotels. Okay, so fast forward to 2024, Airbnb is still screaming. No new hotels were built during that time. Essentially, no new hotels were built. In 2020, these numbers for the states, but basically take the numbers for the states and you can apply them directionally everywhere, with China just kind of knock off 10%. In 2020, 833 new hotels were built. In 2024, there are going to be 5,964 new hotels built in the United States. So, we're in this weird situation. Sorry, looking to press the wrong thing. We're in this weird situation where Airbnb went sky high and hotels went in the toilet. And now you have nearly 7,000 new hotels being built and going to be opened in 2024 in the United States. About 6,000 in China, which is the second largest hotel market in the world. And then you sort of run that out. We're talking probably somewhere in the area of 20,000 new hotels being built and opened in 2024. So the reality is, the rates that we see now are going to be under pressure. So right now, hotels are crazy expensive. The Airbnb effect resulted in no new hotels being built, together with the COVID effect. No new hotels were being built, no new capacity added. Now a whole ton of capacity is coming in. So the point is, it's going to be a really crazy next couple of years in the hotel business as all this new bed stock is being added. And we don't know what's happening with Airbnb. They're under more pressure than they've ever been from a regulatory perspective, and laws and all sorts of stuff. So it's going to be rock and roll in the hotel business over the next couple of years. Now, I'm going to give an Air Canada example just because they released their numbers this week. I do not want anybody to think that I am somehow bashing Air Canada. Air Canada is a global carrier that does really, really well. And although they're fun to make fun of, they are among the best in class in the world, and I will defend them to the end of the earth. That being said, the airline business is a really hard way to make money, okay? So they released their first quarter results, and you could swap in almost any other carrier here, but I'm going to talk about Air Canada because it was this week. Revenue from operations, $5.2 billion. Cost of operations, any guesses? $5.2 billion. They made $11 million off of operating in the first quarter, with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of passengers being flown around, complexity, capital tied up, you name it. They made $11 million. I'm willing to bet that there are banks and telcos that made $11 million by lunch today. It's a really hard way to make money. The reason that I say that is because that's not the only way that they make money. And what has become extremely evident is both in the aviation space as well as in hospitality, cruises, car rental, you name it, that ancillaries are incredibly important. Now, during COVID, let me stop up here. When I say loyalty, I want to be clear that I'm talking about loyalty in two ways. Loyalty, a lot of people think about loyalty. They think about loyalty programs. They think about air miles. They think about Avion points. They think about all that sort of stuff. Or they think about, I'm going to get my Aeroplan because I'm flying. I'm using this card. Blah blah blah. All that sort of stuff, right? And so there's loyalty driving preference, which is I'm going to choose to fly with so-and-so, or I'm going to stay with so-and-so because I am loyal to them, because there is some reason for me to want to continue to do that. And then there's loyalty as a business. And one other thing that became extremely clear during COVID is that loyalty as a business, a thing that makes money on its own, was incredibly important and incredibly valuable. And I'll tell you why. During COVID, American Airlines American Airlines took some US federal government funding and they wanted to get more. They wanted to get more funding, okay? So they took their Advantage program. You guys ever heard of the Advantage program? It's their loyalty program. It's the first loyalty program as a program in the world. They took the Advantage program and they mortgaged it to get funding. At the time, American Airlines' market cap was $10 billion. The Advantage loyalty program was valued at between $19.6 and $31.5 billion. They mortgaged that to get the funding to operate the airline. Now, is it worth 19.6? Is it worth 31.5? Lots of people think not. Lots of people think it's high. Lots of people, but I could tell you, everybody else turned around and said, how the hell are those guys making that much money off of that? We'll have what they're having. And so loyalty sort of went from being this thing that got beaten around internally, the revenue management people didn't want to give up seats or rooms, to suddenly it's a lifesaver because it is driving so much money and it takes a place of honor as a business on itself, on its own, within primarily airlines, gets more complicated with hotels. So that was a huge impact that has changed the landscape for loyalty as an industry. In addition to that, during COVID, people weren't flying anywhere, but they were using their cards like crazy. And the programs realized that one way that they can continue to make money is sell points. Because every time you use your card, essentially what you're doing is that the bank is buying points from the loyalty program at a prescribed rate. And you might think to yourself, oh, that's kind of interesting. How big is that? So in 2017, American Express paid $10 billion in points that they bought. So as a loyalty program, suddenly when nobody's flying anywhere and you want to stay engaged with your members and you want to stay engaged with your and keep driving revenue, credit card usage is incredibly important. Is there a problem? Okay, sorry. Finally, in a world where operating an airline brings in $5.2 billion and costs you $5.2 billion, they start charging for everything. So that's bags, seats. Now even in business class, Air France KLM charges fees if you want a better seat in business class. So you can look at all of this, you can roll your eyes, but go back to what I said right off the top. They made $11 million on $5.2 billion in a quarter. So yeah, fees are here and fees are staying. Ryanair, and I don't know if this is true or not, so I'm not going to state it as true, but Ryanair almost certainly makes more money as an affiliate for Booking selling hotels than they do flying passengers around. They almost certainly make more than that $11 million just in what they charge Booking, I think it's Booking still, as their annual fee to be their preferred partner for the hotel space. So ancillaries, incredibly important. Yeah, okay. High yield, highly questionable. Basically, I wanted to throw this in here because one thing that changed during COVID, and we don't know how quickly it's coming back, is high yield business travel. The typical flight, 75% of the profit is made on the business class of the aircraft. So if you're on a 400 passenger 777-300 extended range, the 48 seats or 32 seats, depending on the configuration at the front, are making 75% of the profit that that plane is making, and those people are still on Zoom. Okay, so fewer of them are on Zoom, and the cabins are full, but they're full with upgrades and redemptions and leisure travelers doing themselves a favor. So we don't know what's going to happen as far as the profitability and the front of cabin high yield bookers. Final point. We're sitting here in Toronto. Please don't think just about Canada. Please, please, I am literally begging you, don't think just about Canada. Canada is fantastic. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. We're all really, really fortunate. But if you want to know what's happening and what the future is going to be, the future of the travel industry is going to be driven by demand from India and China. And let me tell you why. Each one of those countries have a population of 1.4 billion people. I'm going to come in specifically on India because India, currently about 31% of the population is what they call middle class. When people hit the middle class, they travel. It's an aspirational thing. They want to get out there. They want to experience the world. They are after it. They want it. 31% of the population, so that's about 400 million people in India today, are middle class and can travel. By 2047, that's estimated to be more than 60%. So you're talking close to 1 billion people that have the means to travel. The entire population of Canada is 40 million. We've got 1 billion people in India that can be traveling the world. I just want to mention really quickly, Air India currently has an order in for 470 new aircraft. The entire fleet, combined fleet of Air Canada and WestJet is about 300. New planes, 470. You might wonder why I have Emirates up there. Well, Emirates is the unofficial national airline of India. In 2017, the last year that I could get numbers for, they flew 5.5 million people between India and the rest of the world. Air India flew 6 million. So, what do I want you to remember when you leave here? Opportunity hides in adversity. This is going to happen again. Look for it. Be ready. Be prepared. Gut it out. It's there. Ancillaries are golden. They are incredibly important to the category. How can you be active in that space? The accommodations boom is starting. The change in hotel is coming. How are you going to be ready for that? High yield passengers, don't know. Don't plan on them. They might show up, they might not. Can't tell you, too early to say. And finally, India and China are going to drive demand for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. We don't have a lot of time, but if there's any questions for Stuart, raise your hand now. Max has got the mic, and he can pass that on. But we can take maybe 1 or 2 questions for Stuart. Oh, absolutely. It's got to be a very, very smart question.
Are you able to hear me? Okay. I have a question. So if Air Canada is making 75% of their revenue off a very small class, why don't they just have entire planes which only have business class seats? So they reduce the number of seats, but then make every seat into a business class.
Some of it is actually just really basic, and that is the range of the aircraft. There are some aircraft like that do operate in a full business class configuration. British Airways operates an A318 from London City to JFK on a daily basis, but it has to land in Shannon for fuel because it can't make the trip. So the reality is if you want to operate to Dubai or Delhi from Toronto, you need a big machine because you need a whole bunch of fuel to be able to get there. And another factor, frankly, is cargo. That you want to have cargo capacity because there's good money to be made on cargo.
Hi, my name is Mohammed, and what's your opinion on low-cost carriers in the Canadian space? Lynx had to go for bankruptcy. We have Swoop, Flair, and et cetera. So what do you think about that?
I'm going to be generous. the Canadian travel space for aviation is extremely difficult. The stage lengths, the flights are long. The distances are vast. The number one route from a passenger perspective in Canada is Toronto-Vancouver. That's blocked at 5 hours, okay? And we've got 40 million people, and remember those 40 million people don't all travel, right? So it's really, really hard to do. And there are lots of people that sort of say, well, you know, there's this, there's that, the cost structure is high, all those sorts of things. It's an extremely difficult business to be in, these businesses have come and gone constantly for as long as I've been around. I mean, I think Roots Air lasted like 2 months. So like, it's a tough business, and it's not one that I would be putting my time and energy in, simply because it's very, very difficult to succeed.
All right, thanks, Stu.